Hi, I'm Chris Sangster, and welcome back to the studio. Today I want to explain in a little more detail something that I briefly mentioned in my mixing workflow video, link below, and that is the car test. Quite simply, the car test is listening to your mix in the car. But there's a little more that goes into it than that, and I have a few tips to help you get the most out of referencing your mixes in your car. So let's head out to my car and I'll explain more. Alright, now that we're in my car, let's talk about why car tests are beneficial. For starters, the car is a playback system that you are intimately familiar with. If you're anything like me, you've listened to hundreds of hours of music in your car, and you have that frame of reference of what your favorite songs, great mixes sound like in your car, and you can compare that to your mix that you're working on. Secondly, it's a relatively quiet and acoustically controlled space. If you have a relatively modern car, the designers of the car have thought about the acoustics of the interior of the car and how that relates to listening to music. And it's been designed for you to listen to music while sitting in the driver's seat driving the car. With that in mind, the third thing that the car is great for when referencing your mixes is low end. Car stereo systems have a boost in the low end to compensate for the rumble of your engine, and this can really help you hear things in the low end that you might not hear in your studio, especially if you have smaller speakers, you don't have a subwoofer, or you're even mixing on headphones. Listening in the car can really reveal low end issues in your mix, whether that's the balance between the kick and the bass, or just general muddiness in the low end. Listening in the car is one of the best ways to suss out those kind of issues. All right, now let's go over my top 3 tips to get the most out of the car test. Number 1, turn the engine on. I used to make this mistake all the time and just come in the car and get the stereo working and then listen to my mixes, and it would always sound so boomy. And that's because of what I said before. The car system is compensating for the low end rumble of your engine. So in order to get what the true sound of the system is like, what the playback system sounds like, you have to turn the engine on. You don't have to go anywhere. You can sit in your driveway with the engine on and listen, and that'll do just fine. But I will give you one extra tip. If you can drive around and listen to your mixes, it can sometimes reveal mistakes or issues that you wouldn't have noticed in a different setting. That's because you're not totally focused in on every little detail of the mix. You're really, you're looking around, you're driving, you're focusing on the road, and sometimes that distraction from the music can actually make things jump out to you that you wouldn't have heard if you're really listening on a granular level. So that's a little extra tip. It's certainly not necessary to get the most out of the car test, but if you're looking for a fresh perspective on your mix, sometimes it helps to just drive around and listen to it. Number 2, sit in the position that you drive in. And once again, this is back to how your car's stereo system is designed to be listened to. It's designed for the driver to get the best experience listening to music in the driver's seat driving the car. That's the scenario that this thing has been designed for. So when you're referencing your mixes in the car, make sure you sit in the driver's seat with the engine on and listen to the song as if you were driving, even if you're not going anywhere. Don't do this thing where you're moving over to the side to try to be in the middle of the stereo image. It doesn't work like that in a car. For one thing, the speakers are aimed in this way. They're not aimed this way. So the stereo image in the car works totally differently than the stereo image in your studio does. So sit in front of the wheel like you're driving to get the best sound you can from your stereo system. Number 3, and this one might be the most important tip I give you. Pick a level and stick with it every time you reference in the car. Chances are your car is going to have some kind of number system or something that lets you know how loud it is. In mine, it just has this little digital display that gives a number value as to how loud the system is turned up. Pick a number and stick with it. Whatever is comfortably loud, not too quiet, something that you would just listen to and enjoy any song at. That's the level you should go with. Mine, it's a number 21. I know it by heart. I put 21 on the dial every time I reference in the car, and I never ever change that. That way, you know if the mix is too loud, if it's too quiet, if the frequency balance is off, you'll know it's because the frequency balance is off and not because the level balances are off. This is a tip that applies to the studio as well. Always have a monitor level that you're comfortable with and stick to it while mixing, but same applies in the car. Find a level and stick to it. All right, those are my top 3 tips for doing the car test. I hope this sheds a little more light on what the car test is all about, why it's beneficial, and why you might want to add it to your mixing process. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you at the studio next time. Thanks.